Raising Steam by Terry Pratchett. Come closer, settle in. This is a story about Girder, a young engineer named Dick Simnel, and the moment Ankh-Morpork decides that the future can have a whistle. On the disc, progress is what you call a change you have already survived. Dick Simnel brings a steam engine out of the stew plains as if it were a tame thunder god. Moist von Lipwig, who has already been hanged, posted, and banked, is given the railway because Lord Veterinary does not like unemployed miracles. Adora Belle Deerheart watches goblins, people, not pests, find a place in a machine age that would rather they stayed folklore. Girder is not just steel. She is a personality with a boiler, loved by those who wipe her down and feared by those whose business was the slowness of horses. The railway eats distance. Distance was how a lot of old powers stayed old. Dwarfs split between the Grags who want the dark to stay dark and the ones who have seen a timetable. Quirm, Stewlat, and the wilder borders discover they are suddenly next door. Assassins, bandits, and theology try to derail the experiment. Moist does what Moist does, sell the story so well that reality has to catch up, then make sure the rails are actually down. Simnel does what engineers do, insist that belief is not a substitute for a correctly tapped boiler. Together they invent a country that is closer to itself. Goblins on the clacks and on the footplate are not mascots. They are the skill the hymn singers overlooked. Spike has been saying so. The railway makes it obvious, which is the only language some lords speak. In the end, the train runs. Not perfectly. Not without graves beside the embankment. But it runs, and Ankh-Morpork, which has always been a machine that pretended to be a city, finally admits the wheels. Moist does not become honest. He becomes responsible in public, which is the industrial version. If you are still awake, remember this: steam is just water that got ambitious. People are the same. Sleep well. The engine cools. Tomorrow there is a timetable, and someone has to keep it. Veterinary understands railways the way he understands newspapers and banks, as devices for making private power visible. Visible power can be taxed, timed, and, if necessary, embarrassed. Simnel's father hammered in a shed so his son could change the map. That is a kind of magic wizards do not patent. Girder's first breath is a scene the city will mythologize. Up close it is heat, rivets, and a young man hoping the numbers were kind. Myths are just numbers that survived. The Grags fear the railway because it carries dwarfs into sunlight on purpose. Sunlight is a policy. So is soot. The disc will have both. Moist's golden suit at a ribbon cutting is a con that has become civic ritual. He knows it. Spike knows it. The crowd knows it and cheers anyway, because ritual is how you board a dangerous idea. Bandits discover that you cannot hold up a concept. You can hold up a train once. After that, the concept holds you. Goblin craft on a locomotive is the same craft that made clacks rings sing. Technology is not a species. It is a conversation. Some people were never invited. The whistle invites them anyway. When the first through service arrives on time, Ankh-Morpork pretends this was inevitable. Nothing is inevitable until Moist has sold it and Simnel has bolted it. There. The fire is low. The steam thins. Tomorrow the rails will tick in the sun, and somewhere a goblin will keep a boiler alive with the same care others keep gods. For tonight, the railway sleeps, which is how you know it has become real. A boiler is a drum that learned mathematics. Simnel speaks to it in taps. The boiler answers in pressure. Between them they invent a conversation Ankh-Morpork will later call inevitable, which is a lie told by survivors. Moist's job is to make strangers board a machine that should, by all previous theology, explode. He has sold worse. The difference is that this time he wants the customers alive at the far station. Growth, of a sort. Goblins were folklore with fingers. Give folklore a spanner and it becomes staff. Spike has been filing this report for years. The railway stamps it. Grags in the dark hear a whistle and think of sunlight as an invasion. They are not entirely wrong. Sunlight changes minds. So does a ticket. Girder's name is a love letter from people who polish steel. Love letters to machines are how the industrial age stays human. Neglect is how it becomes only teeth. Bandits on the first week are a problem. Bandits on the 10th are a footnote. Concepts outrun horses. Veterinary's punctual train is not a hobby. It is a demonstration that the state can arrive when it says it will, which is a kind of magic more useful than fireballs. At night the rails contract and tick like a cooling beast. Moist listens from a window and does not mistake the sound for safety. He mistakes it, correctly, for work that will still be there at dawn, which is how you know a city has grown a new organ. Consider the whistle as a new kind of church bell. It calls people not to kneel but to board. Boarding is a faith, you trust steel, a stranger's timetable, and a goblin with a shovel. Moist sells that faith. Simnel tightens it. Spike insists the goblin is on the payroll as a person. 3 theologies, 1 platform. Girder does not care about theologies. She cares about water, coal, and not being asked to climb a gradient without notice. Machines are honest that way. People add flags. The Grags are not clowns. They are a conservatism with picks. When the dark has been your cathedral, a ticket into sunlight feels like vandalism. The railway vandalizes distance, which was their wall. Walls hate timetables. Moist's golden suit at the 10th station is threadbare with use. Use is the point. A com that has been used into civic furniture is either a tragedy or a promotion. On the disc it is both, and then the train leaves. Bandits, assassins, theology, all of them learn that you can wreck a carriage and not wreck a network. Networks are a new animal. Veterinary smiles at new animals that can be scheduled. At dawn the shed smells of oil and sleep. Simnel is already there. Goblins are already there. Moist arrives late, which is traditional for people who talk, and still useful, which is traditional for Moist. The boiler wakes. The country gets closer to itself by a few more miles of honest iron. Sleep. Rails ticking. Tomorrow a whistle, a platform, a goblin's tea. The future can wait on the siding until the lamp is out. One more thing before the lamp goes. Rails are a promise laid on the ground where anyone can trip over it. Promises you can trip over are the honest kind. Moist has sold the other kind. He is trying this kind now, with a whistle for a signature. Simnel will be in the shed before birds. Goblins will have the firebox thinking. Spike will have the payroll thinking. Veterinary will have the state thinking. Girder will have water thinking. That is a cabinet meeting. The country, for once, is on the agenda as something that can arrive. A gauge is a tiny god that only tells the truth. Simnel trusts gauges more than lords. Lords notice. Some of them buy shares. Some of them buy wrecking bars. The railway is the argument between those purchases, laid in iron so even a wrecking bar has to show up on time. Moist speeches get shorter as the rails get longer. That is a good sign. At the first station he needed a paragraph. At the 20th he needs a wave. Spike calls this growth. Moist calls it running out of lies that still help. Goblins on night shift see the country as a moving dark with sparks. They name the sparks. Naming is how you keep a boiler from becoming a dragon you did not order. Grags will write that the whistle stole the dark. They are right in the way storms are right about washing. The dark was never theirs to fence. It was only theirs to live in. Living is still allowed. Fencing the century is not. Veterinary's notebook gains a column, minutes late. Minutes late is a new crime. Ankh-Morpork, which invented so many old ones, is almost proud. When Girder sleeps, she ticks like a cooling star. People who polish her speak softly, not because she is holy, because she is hot and expensive and loved. Love of tools is how a species stays kind while getting faster. Lose that, and you get only speed. Speed without kindness is just a better cliff. Sleep. Let the siding hold the century until dawn. Dawn will be on time if Simnel has anything to do with it, and he does, and so do the goblins, and so, to his own surprise, does the man in the golden suit.